कैश है तो ऐश है।
आज पहली बार ऐसा सीन है जहाँ पे आपको सवाल पूछे जाएंगे instead of you asking other people questions.
The market perception has changed a lot, and we have over a period of time, I mean, we saw that our continuous narrative and continuous engagement, a lot of lenders who were kind of watching us are now actively engaged with us. Some of them already written large checks for us. Some of them are on the verge of closure. We have large private banks, PSUs.
Evolution X, for example.
I think something that has really added much more credibility to our franchise and what we bring to the table is the last 6 quarters of continuous profitability. I think that gives the lenders a lot more comfort that what we have built over the year, it does translate into a profitable growth. Otherwise, you would see in the market there are various fintech models around, right? And
I got a first meeting with one of these lenders, and when I went there, the name of Lendingkart was on their whiteboard, wherein they listed Lendingkart as one of the probable partners.
Wow.
And it was such a proud moment for me when I walked in, because probably for almost 1 year I was in touch with them, but I didn't even get a meeting, in-person meeting. What we really want to do before the IPO is, right now, I mean, our focus is a lot of diversification as to the lenders base.
MSME is it's a grossly underserved segment. There is just so much more to do. I think the job at our hands would be to really keep doing what we have built. Just build, further scale on it.
Hello and namaskar. My name is Ram Deshpande. I am the host of a new podcast series called The Lendingkart Show. In this series, we will be speaking with our leaders from Lendingkart, the people who are driving innovation and disrupting the finance industry like no other, and doing it as one team. I also recommend you to listen to our earlier podcast series, which was hosted by our colleague Kinney, where she had interviewed all our leaders. Those podcasts are available on our YouTube and Spotify channels. We take that discussion forward and get into further details of Lendingkart and the fintech industry overall. Now let's go and start the Lendingkart show.
ये जो स्टार्टअप वर्ल्ड है ना, इसमें 2 टाइप की कंपनीज होती हैं. एक वो जो न्यूज़ में आते हैं और एक वो जो प्रॉफिट बनाते हैं. एंड इन द फिनटेक स्पेस देयर आर वेरी फ्यू स्टार्टअप्स विच आर एक्चुअली प्रॉफिटेबल. एंड देन देयर इज Lendingkart. I am so proud to be part of a system that is not only solving some huge problems for the MSME sector, but also doing it in a profitable manner. 120 crores of profit after tax in the FY23 last year. Who better to break it all down for us than the financial leaders of Lendingkart? Today we have with us our CFO, Gaurav, and SVP and Head of Capital Markets, Anisha. Welcome guys to the podcast.
Thanks Ram. Very well put, I must say.
कैसा लग रहा है आपको गौरव? आज पहली बार ऐसा सीन है जहाँ पे आपको सवाल पूछे जाएंगे instead of you asking other people questions.
Yeah, I mean, I would say excited to be here, Ram. I watched season 1 and I felt it was fabulous. And
Thank you.
Great to be part of season 2. Looking forward to it.
Great.
I just hope you have some easy ones for me.
Of course, CFO के लिए तो easy सवाल ही पूछने पड़ेंगे मेरा ख्याल है.
Let's hope so.
There are 2 people you can't mess with, the Chief HR Officer and the Chief Financial Officer. You know why. And Anisha, how about you?
Pleasure to be here, Ram. I mean, I am, unlike Gaurav, I'm always on the spot, answering questions of lenders, investors, rating agencies.
Yeah.
And now, for the first time, it's with you. So,
Correct.
Pleasure. Looking forward to kind of giving you satisfactory responses.
Thank you. No, thank you. Thank you so much for your time, both of you. Capital markets, right? That's what you're currently looking at from a Lendingkart perspective. Take us through your journey. How did you start at Lendingkart and what are you doing these days?
So, Ram, I joined Lendingkart 2 years back. And the whole idea behind joining a fintech-based startup was that I myself was not that tech savvy or digitally savvy, and I thought unless I take a plunge, unless my salary comes from here, I would really not be able to appreciate what's happening in the in this domain. Trust me, last 2 years have been a fabulous journey. Lot of learning for myself, lot of learning and appreciation for what Lendingkart has created in the digital lending space. And my role kind of starts not only from convincing myself, but the ability to convince the lenders, to make them see what I'm able to see this in this organization, to make them understand what we are creating, and then partner with them. Typically, my conversations start with the lenders where there is skepticism. They don't know what we are doing, how we are doing, and is it really possible? Now the numbers speak for itself. 120 crores. It is in
Yeah.
there and it's possible.
Correct.
But the journey begins from there. I mean, with skepticism, you have continuous engagement. You kind of narrate your story. There is a lot of conversations, informed conversations, and that's when they start appreciating what we have kind of created, and then it's followed by collaboration, partnerships, investors, or they're giving us funding facilities. So it's an ongoing journey for me. What stage of journey I am, it really depends on what is the depth of the conversation with the lender, investor, or the rating agency that I'm having.
And so when you say lenders, we have two kinds of lenders, right? One is the lender who's a co-lender, and then there is another lender who's basically from where we are raising our debt finance. Is that correct? How would you explain that?
So if you look at it, that yes, so I mean, so as an NBFC, money is raw material for us.
Right.
If we have money, we're able to deploy it, and that's where our returns are coming from. Money comes to us in two forms. Basically, whatever we can borrow on our own balance sheet. It can be in form of investment instrument from the lenders, or it can be in form of a direct on the balance sheet lending that they do. The other form that you talked about is the co-lending partnership. It's a much deeper integration that we have with 17 large co-lending partners as we speak. In fact, today only we signed one more agreement, and that will add the count to 18. So we
18
have,
active, otherwise we have a lot of basically 20,
yes,
25
yes.
plus
So we have
conversations
huge
we've been having.
pipeline, but 18 active co-lending partners, and so it's a much deeper integration. It's not only about getting balance sheet; it's about understanding and appreciating each other's system integration, API integrations. Not only for the onboarding of the customer, how the follow-up activity of maintaining that account, reconciliations, and then collection activity, all of that, how it gets synchronized with the system of Lendingkart. So yes, on one hand, there are lenders who directly give the money on our balance sheet and give us the freedom to deploy it. There are others who partner with us to give that money to the actual MSME customer.
Right. So, and if we were to look at the scale of Lendingkart over the last few years, even before you joined, there was a certain amount of money that people would entrust Lendingkart with. Either way,
Yes.
both of the models. And now
Yes.
has it grown leaps and bounds? Or
Definitely.
what kind of scale have you looked at?
Definitely. So even if I have to look back at for last 8 quarters probably,
Sure.
while the company has been growing, so is our engagement with our partners increasing. I mean, typically the first check that any lender used to write. In fact, when I joined the organization 2 years back, there were lenders who had given us even 10 crores rupees, and maybe little smaller than that also. But today, when we talk about our vision is to have at least, I mean, a large ticket size, maybe 50 crores, 100 crores, 125 crores kind of number. With the co-lending partnership, this landscape has also changed. Now, what we used to talk about one-shot disbursement, now on a monthly basis, we see that kind of commitment coming from each of these co-lending partners.
Yeah.
So a bank giving us 25 crores check for a 6 to 9 months period with a 25 crores check every month to deploy for MSME customers. That's where we are going, and that's how we are growing.
Yeah, that was quite interesting. And I remember I think last year it was probably January of 2022 when we did a social media post of having done the biggest month ever in terms of this. We were so happy to cross a particular milestone. I think
It was 300 CR.
300 CR. And now we've
crossed
way
much
ahead
bigger,
of that. Yeah,
much bigger
exactly.
milestones after that.
Exactly. And in the podcast that I did with Harsh, we were talking about how for the first 3.5 years or so is what we took to do 1,000 crores of dispersal. And now we're doing 1,000 crores within a quarter, and soon probably we'll hopefully do it within a month. What do you think, Gaurav?
It just talks about the scale that the company has built,
Yeah.
especially over the last 2 years or so.
Now, coming to you and your role specifically, how do you see the difference being the head of finance or CFO at a fintech vis-a-vis, let's say, a bank? And like that's the industry you've come from. So how would you describe your role or the differences that you see for yourself?
Yeah, so I would say, Ram, the role differs quite a bit in a traditional bank, and having transitioned myself from a bank to fintech, for a large part of my career, I was working with a bank. I think in a traditional setup, you pretty much know your job description is like very well laid out, and typically for a finance role, you know that some of the things that you would do, it would be managing budgets, the financial reporting, compliances, right? Basically, just to ensure that the financial security of the franchise. I think from the fintech perspective, it's just so much broad based. The role is so much broad based that you kind of look at various things, right? And the what could be your entire job description in a traditional setup would just be the minimum things that you are supposed to do, and pretty much taken for granted that you would take care of that. And you, as a financer, you just need to keep aligning your priorities as the way business priorities are, right? And as it keeps expanding, you keep pace with that. So, and just to give you an example, let's say one day you could be talking about how to structure a M&A delivery, an M&A opportunity, how to expand into new verticals, or it could be what are the implications of recent guidelines, as recent as that, how it's going to impact your world. So I think it's just so much broad based, and at the same time is extremely fast paced. So it's not that typically and usually the way finance operates is that you try and ring fence your base first and then move ahead.
Right.
I think in a fintech you just need to react quickly and see how you move from there. So that's where I think it's much more challenging, so as to speak, that your reaction time plus your ability to absorb and react has to be much faster.
Right. And but from a purely accounting standpoint, do you see a significant difference, or you adhere to the same accounting standards that are there, prevalent? Especially being a regulated entity, what kind of care do we have to take?
It's pretty much. So, for example, in a bank, you would follow international financial reporting standards,
Right.
IFRS.
Correct.
That's pretty much we follow over here as well. So I think from the application standpoint, fundamentally, it doesn't change much.
Right.
It's just that there could be very specific areas because fintechs would foray into areas which are not very typical. So you need to look at how it's going to, how you are going to factor for it. You would typically engage consultants to see you do the right thing, right? And at times it takes some time to actually absorb and kind of get to the right accounting impact of things versus a bank where the practices would be pretty much established and going on for many years. So that's how I would kind of differentiate between the
And
two.
there is also a difference between being a private company and a public company at that, or doesn't matter because we are anyway have to disclose our earning statements?
So we are, in some sense, we are also public because we have some debt listed.
Correct.
So we do follow to a large extent, we follow the same standards. And we keep on looking at how do we kind of continue to enhance that because as you would, I mean, we know that down the line there would be IPO plans. So we are actually looking at how do we continue to enhance our disclosure standards, our reporting, the internal systems that we have. So on that standpoint, we continue to work towards ensuring that we continue to follow the standards that a listed company would be following.
तो कब जा रहे हैं हम IPO? तो अभी बहुत सारे लोगों के स्टॉक ऑप्शंस हैं, बहुत सारे एम्प्लॉइज उम्मीदें लगा के बैठे हैं आपकी तरफ, आप बताएं.
I think you're asking the wrong person the right question.
तैयारी तो है आपकी, मतलब
तैयारी
you're
चल
ready,
रही
your
है.
systems are good.
तैयारी चल रही है, हम तैयार हैं.
कल बोलो तो कल हो जाए, हैं? ऐसा है?
We just need a green signal from the corner office, otherwise we should be ready for it.
All right, that's very promising to hear and very happy to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely.
When it comes to all this, we always hear this term called the market. मार्केट में खबर ये है, मार्केट में वो है ना? ये जो मार्केट है, एक तो स्टॉक मार्केट सबको पता है, बट एक मार्केट कैपिटल मार्केट. एनीवे, बट जब मार्केट की बात होती है, you have your ears close to the ground. What is the market saying about us?
So market perception.
So what is that market?
That is the market that's giving you your raw material.
Correct. Right.
So yes, over a period of time, in fact, Lendingkart has been able to establish itself as, I mean, we are the first mover in the space that we have created for ourselves, the digital learning for MSME space. First, in terms of establishing the number and volume of co-lending partnership businesses that we are doing. From that perspective, we are the first mover. And also these position comes with the pros as well as cons.
Yeah.
So while obviously market appreciates what we are doing, but we are at the same time uh, we are educating a lot of institutions around us. So a lot of time my interaction with the lenders is it's not about what we are doing, is how we can do it collaboratively.
Right.
So from that perspective, making them understand digital guidelines, the implications, the way we are following and we have adopted to it, the co-lending arrangements, how does it work, the pros and cons, the turnaround times, the cost, and the benefit that's actually being passed on to the MSME customers. So a lot of these informative discussions happens with in any partnership that we go for before we actually sign on the dotted lines. So it's huge engagement. But yes, the market perception has changed a lot, and we have over a period of time. I mean, we saw that our continuous narrative and continuous engagement. A lot of lenders who were kind of watching us are now actively engaged with us. Some of them already written large checks for us. Some of them are on the verge of closure. We have large private banks, PSUs.
Evolution X, for example.
Yes. So after a good 4 months period, we finally got about 200 crores on Friday from them.
Well, congratulations for that.
Thank you so much, Ram. So that's definitely the efforts. That actually revalidates our story.
Right.
That revalidates what we are doing. That revalidates what an investor is looking in the company.
Sure.
So yes,
Right. And
transactions like
makes
this.
it, and I guess the best way to look at the impact of something like this is how easy it is now for you to get meetings in Mumbai.
So meetings in Mumbai, I mean, see, as I said, it was never a time when we could not get a meeting.
Sure.
It's just that were they prepared to move ahead in the journey with us? See, a lot of time they appreciate, as an individual, they appreciate our story, but there are macroeconomic challenges, there are organizational challenges. We keep hearing things like NBFC exposure has capped. We keep hearing things that we are not into new age businesses, but at the same time, there are enough and more users who are willing and who are interested in knowing our story. Now, does that convert into something meaningful for us? That is something that we are seeing today.
Yeah. If I can just add to that, I think something that has really added much more credibility to our franchise and what we bring to the table is the last 6 quarters of continuous profitability. I think that gives the lenders a lot more comfort that what we have built over the year, it does translate into a profitable growth. Otherwise, you would see in the market there are various fintech models around, right? And but if you look at how much of them are profitable, then probably you can count that on your fingers. So I think what probably has made Anisha's job a little easier would be that now that whenever we go, we can talk about how steadily we have built on our financial performance. And from lenders' perspective, that's usually the first point of check that how much we have been able to deliver. True. So I think that probably has
Definitely. I
made
mean,
a little
in fact,
easier.
thanks Gaurav for that, because a lot of these conversions were not happening because people wanted to see. They wanted to see a number.
Yeah.
And the financial results, the fully financial audited results give that confidence to the market. And that gives the confidence to the investor base, the lenders, the rating agencies. And I mean, yes, to some extent it makes our task easier, but at the same time there's always expectations. So it's not only about making sure that
Target
we have
only
money.
becomes larger.
Yeah, the target becomes larger. Target becomes at the right pricing.
Sure.
So it's a lot cut out for us.
So would it be fair to say कि कुछ सालों पहले the only lenders would be interested is जो already MSME sector में interested हैं, digital lending से खौफ नहीं खा रहे हैं, वो लोग जो which will be a very small. So maybe it's something like this. A few years back, कुछ सालों पहले अगर हम जाते थे तो हम उनका interest मिलता उन lenders का who were already looking at the MSME sector and probably were not averse to getting into digital lending or new age kind of companies. But now that pool has widened.
Correct.
And there were few people who were waiting on the sidelines who are now getting into the pool. And at the same time, now there are more people who are now, अरे ये क्या नया हो रहा है? चलो, let's look at that. Is that correct way to sort of look at it?
So ecosystem has evolved.
Right.
I mean, participation into digital lending model has evolved. So in that ways, COVID was a blessing in disguise.
Right.
And yes, I mean, if you ask me, I mean, we have been engaged with the lenders for, I mean, I personally talking, I mean, I've been in touch with them for almost 2 years. And they may be a very informal conversation of 5 on the call. What am I doing? Or how is my organization doing? Whether they're interested, not interested. And just keeping them warm. But I mean, happy to share an incident when I I got a first meeting with one of these lenders, and when I went there, the name of Lending Cart was on their whiteboard, wherein they listed Lending Cart as one of the probable partners.
Wow.
And it was such a proud moment for me when I walked in, because probably for almost 1 year, I was in touch with them, but I didn't even get a meeting, in-person meeting. So a lot of times when you don't get the audiences, because they have their own limitations, and at the end of the day, time is a constraint. I mean, they want to use it wisely, but at the same time, I mean, today I feel proud of at least saying that people are well aware. I mean, thanks to you also, Ram. I mean, people, I mean, know Lending Card. They know what we are doing, how we are doing, and they want to join hands with us to create what we have created and to make sure that to create the outreach to the MSME customers that we are creating for them.
So that lender के वहाँ पे भी मतलब कोई बॉस होगा जो पूछ रहा होगा लेंडिंग कार्ड के साथ मीटिंग किया कि नहीं अभी तक, क्यों नहीं हुआ? हफ्ते भर से पूछ रहे हैं, अभी तक मीटिंग नहीं हुआ.
100%.
अनीशा से मीटिंग कब करूं? मेरी मदद चाहिए तो मुझे बताओ. I can get on the call with Anisha. Something like that must be happening.
I'm definitely sure about it, because yes, we do interact at all levels, and there's sometimes we have seen that sometimes the their level of people. I mean, sometimes the junior people are much more interested in knowing about the organization. Sometimes it's a top-down approach where the senior management is very interested, and I have seen likes of both. I've seen likes of both, wherein I was trying to reach the organization through a contact at a junior level, and I couldn't get the entry, and somehow just walked into their office and I met the senior most person, and literally within 2 months we got the sanction.
Nice.
So there have been times, and there have been both occasions where we got entry at a lower level, or we get an entry from top to bottom.
No, but good. I think that's very encouraging. I think we are only in a way getting started, because we still only few 100 crores a month. I think we need to go to few thousand.
Oh, absolutely. If I can just add one point on that. I think what has really got people to stand up and pay attention to what we are doing is that if you look at entire fintech ecosystem, some of the other players who have been into, let's say, payments or insurance or, let's say, investments, they have realized that there is very little revenue visibility that they have in those verticals. And lending is one area where everyone knows that there is money to be made.
Right.
And Lendingkart has been there, right, and being doing that.
Right.
On the top of that, when you add the layer of profitability, doing that, having the ability to really underwrite the segment digitally with data and technology, I think that really adds a lot of credibility to what Lendingkart does, and that has probably especially over the last 1.5 2 years, has got a lot more attention from our lenders or investors and the other ecosystem players.
Yeah, and I think nothing opens doors better than profit, I guess.
Money attracts money.
There you go. That's right. But let's talk about profitability. So obviously last year, which is FY23, 22-23, 14,000 crores के ऊपर अभी हमारा loan disbursal हो चुका है, total amount, I think. Then we did 120 crores of PAT, more than 820 crores of our own revenue, so to speak, and करीब 4,000 करोड़ के करीब का
Disbursements, yes.
इसका driver क्या था? How do you look at it from a finance angle? Or when you put on the CFO hat and you see such a company, then how do you look at that?
Yeah. So two-part answer to it, Ram. So the first part would be that the whole pivot to platform business that we did about a year back, I think that has really been the key piece of our strategy to really build platform. And we know platform is all about how do you leverage your partner's balance sheet to execute a loan transaction. I think that has been a key enabler in terms of really giving us the push to build our disbursement and our AUM portfolio. And the return profile that you get on an off balance sheet asset is far superior to an on balance sheet. I think that has been the key lever which has really made us to really fully utilize the capabilities that we have built, right, without having a capital constraint attached to it. So I would say that has been the key lever. And the other piece that if I were to call it, I would say the whole steadiness in our asset quality, because in a lending business that really matters a lot, and you can't really overemphasize that point. I think what we have been able to demonstrate over again last 4 to 6 quarters is that we have been able to continue to keep our asset quality in check. If you look at our delinquencies, collection efficiency, they would be industry leading. I think that gives it's just not gives at first point it doesn't only falls into your bottom line, but it also gives your lenders and partners a lot more comfort that MSME being we know that it's a vulnerable segment, right, to economic upturn and downturns. But to just consistently deliver a steady set of asset quality has been a key lever. So I think I would say these two factors have been key players. While they have delivered on the P&L, and I think they would continue to provide at the Philip on a going forward basis as well.
Just to add there, the ecosystem has also been very, very supportive. I mean, when we talk about platform business, there's a lot of emphasis being given by Reserve Bank of India also to make sure that lenders participate in this model. I mean, at the end of the day, the CASA balance and the cost of funds that large banks can bring and the outreach that we have created, that's just something that needs to marry to really make the economic growth happen. From that perspective, the ecosystem has been very, very favorable, not only in terms of the financial segment, but also from the digital investments that are happening in the country. So the account aggregator, the verification of the online verification of the KYCs and other stuff like that.
The entire India stack, all the digital public goods.
So not only us, I mean, at the end of the day, our partners are also learning about it and they want to kind of, partner with us to grow manyfold.
It's not that risky as was initially thought, basically, right?
So one more point, in fact, when you said risk, I mean, a lot of lenders that we interact with, they feel that we are in the risky segment, and especially given the fact that what we are doing is an unsecured lending. So, I mean, personally, and our whole experience has been that security is overrated. I mean, at the end of the day, how many of us are able to actually collect the money by selling any security in the market, if in a worst case scenario? So as long as we choose the right set of customers and get our underwriting models are in place, we get the right set of customers, we get the right quality. And while we do not have security, I mean, we have not taken any security from the borrowers, but what is important is that our portfolio gets sovereign coverage. And Gaurav, if you would like to throw some light on that, because that is something that's really given confidence to our investors. I mean, it's not what we have created, it's again a revalidation from the government indirectly of the value that we are adding.
No, absolutely, So if you look at it, and MSME being the one of the priority sector lending, I think there is a significant amount of government's push to it as well. And I'm not sure how many people know about the central government schemes like CGTMSE and CGFMU, which essentially provide for a guarantee cover to a lender who is in turn lending to MSME in an unsecured fashion. I think it does provide a significant amount of coverage in case the underlying loan portfolio goes bad. I think in that sense, we have been able to register almost 2/3 of our portfolio. And when we talk to our lenders as well about this, I think it does give them the comfort that while it's a MSME, it's unsecured. At the same time, there is a sovereign guarantee which is backing up the loan to cover it off if things go bad, right? For example, the COVID or any black swan event like COVID happens, we know that there is something to really protect the downside on the portfolio. While we know on an ongoing basis what is the loss rate that you would expect, but to prevent for a larger drop, there is a sovereign guarantee which is backing it up.
Sure. So how does this work? So when the government sovereign guarantee, for that matter, what you're saying, in practical terms, how do you see it in operations? Like if a small business, like our director Rishabh's company here, if they were to come in for a loan and, he's running a small business, for example, right? Then if he is applying for a loan, and how would he sort of get the benefit of this guarantee from the central government?
Yeah. So I think any small business, what they would need to do is to register themselves under the Udham portal. It's government-run portal where a small business or a small business would need to just register themselves. And what happens is that once they apply for it, for example, when we get such applications, we look for that registration certificate. What in turns enables us is that we register these loans under these sovereign guarantee schemes that I spoke about. From our standpoint, it gives us the guarantee, and what in turn it does for the eventual borrower is that they get better pricing because we know that what's likely to be the loss on this portfolio. So we do try and pass on some benefit onto the borrower for the scheme.
So if the borrower goes delinquent, then the central government is taking the guarantee to repay a certain portion of that loan?
Absolutely. There are rules around it, but yes, in a nutshell, they would pick up.
There would be certain qualifying criteria.
There are qualification criteria. There are some certain steps that you need to take. So there are process around it. But yes, in a nutshell, what you get is that a substantial part of the loan or the bad loan gets covered by this guarantee.
So just to add over here, I mean, the way I look at this scheme is the MSME borrower does not get a direct benefit, as in not the government of India is not giving some money into its account, but it's creating an ability for the ecosystem to enable companies like Lendingkart to lend to this borrower.
Right.
Otherwise, they would have remained outside the purview.
Correct.
So when we talk of our business model, actually what we are doing is we are anyways pricing the risk. We know what kind of risk we are taking on a customer and we price that risk in. But the confidence that we have with this scheme is that it gives me that ability to take that risk. Right? It prevents me from any downside risk. And at the end of the day, it's a win-win. I mean, my government wants to support the MSME borrowers, and this is an indirect way of supporting them, making sure that organizations like us give them loan at affordable prices.
Yeah, and that is what the lenders then see, that okay, Lendingkart is able to attract such customers which qualify for all these things, and hence the risk goes down, and hence now more funding comes out.
Correct.
Absolutely. So it's all
Simple, right?
goes in
Easy,
circles.
easy to understand. जाओ भाई ऋषभ थोड़ा लोन ले लो.
You know where to go.
Good. I think that is very interesting as of this moment, and we covered quite a bit in terms of what's happening at the moment or the last 1 or 2 years, post-pandemic, so to speak. I think significant changes and significantly high sort of transaction value for us. But how do you see the future happening? What do you see the next few months or next few quarters becoming? I mean, IPO being there, we also already discussed that. But other than that, how do you see the markets growing, and what kind of position Lendingkart here would have? So good, this is how things are now, and of course things have come a long way for us like you already described. But what does the future hold for us? How do you see the next few quarters? I mean, you obviously already spoke about IPO and all. That aside, how do you see things changing in the next few quarters, if at all?
So you've set the expectation. So IPO is definitely, I mean, while it's few quarters away. What we really want to do before the IPO is, right now, I mean, our focus is on a lot of diversification as to the lenders base. I mean, we want, while we already have, we have lenders from PSU banks, private banks. We have lenders, large NBFCs, smaller NBFCs, DFIs, impact funds, wealth clients. But at the same time, going forward, the way I look at Lendingkart is that we want to engage with fewer but deeper engagements. So engage with lenders who can scale with us, who can continue with us in our journey, and who can join hands with us to give us the right amount of liquidity at right price, so that we can make affordable loans at affordable cost available for MSME customers.
What do you think, Gaurav?
So I would say, Ram, I think, and we spoke about it, I think the company is very well positioned in the space that it operates in. And we spoke about the demonstrated performance in terms of the asset quality, the profitability, the platform that we have built. My sense is that at times when the things are going good, it's easy to get sidetracked and try and do different things. I would say all that we have built, right, and given that MSME is huge, it's a grossly underserved segment, there is just so much more to do. I think the job at our hands would be to really keep doing what we have built just build further scale on it, right? Just adding to Anisha's point that have more partners coming in, let's say have much more deeper engagement with the broad spectrum of lenders that we have. But my sense is that no need to do something fancy, and we know that in the entire fintech ecosystem, people have tried to do different things. I don't think Lendingkart would need to do that. It just keep doing what it does best.
Consistently at that.
Just being consistent on what we have been doing. Yeah.
Very good. So Anisha, do you see your pitch to lenders changing in the because of all this stuff that is happening, or is there any change really required? Like Gaurav mentioned, we don't need to do anything fancy. But does your pitch change?
So Ram, I said, I mean, as I said during the podcast, that pitch really depends on what stage of our interaction we are with the lender. So pitch doesn't change because we have been doing the same thing. It's just that our numbers are talking for itself now. But yeah, what has happened over a period of time when I started looking at co-lending partnership, the engagements were very basic. You have to make them understand how it's going to function. You have to make them understand what is going to be my roles and responsibility and what is expectation from the lender, how the ecosystem will evolve. But now the engagements are much more deeper. I mean, co-lenders understand. Now they come with certain set of expectations and they want more clarity around operational aspects, the integration aspects, how the customer journey would be managed. So it's a much in-depth conversation that we have with the lenders vis-a-vis what we used to have when it was more of educating each other about how the process is evolving.
So earlier, if you were having an hour-long meeting, half an hour was being spent in just describing what is Lendingkart. Has that now reduced to 5 minutes, maybe?
That has probably reduced, but my meeting hours have definitely increased because of the engagement level with the lender.
That makes a lot of sense, I think. Then you're talking a lot more deal making now.
Yeah.
Very good. I think, do you see this being a trend across India in the sense that, I mean, not just our kind of companies, but overall India, do you see this happening where the ability of our financial institutions to take higher risk is increasing? Or they are looking at these whole new sectors of investments for themselves?
It's not about higher risk. It's about
what was
acknowledging the new age.
There you go. That's a better way to say it.
It's like acknowledging the new age organizations.
Sure.
Acknowledging there is a way to do business than the traditional brick and mortar business. Acknowledging that loan is available on a click of a button. So there's a lot of things that have changed the entire ecosystem, and that's the change in the conversation that we have with lenders.
Cool. Gaurav, we spoke about profitability, but we didn't talk about costs. हम लोग ने तो कुछ ज़्यादा बात नहीं करी कॉस्ट के बारे में. You know, profitability एक एलिमेंट कॉस्ट भी तो होता है. मार्केटिंग में ज़्यादा खर्चा नहीं करते हम लोग वैसे.
कहना भी नहीं चाहिए शायद.
फ्रूगल रहते हैं हम लोग, काफ़ी फ्रूगल तरीके से करते हैं. बट आपका क्या ख्याल है इन द सेंस दैट अगर प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी मेंटेन करनी है तो एक तरफ तो ग्रोथ है, रेवेन्यू वाली ग्रोथ, जहाँ पे कैपिटल मार्केट से सपोर्ट आता है, कस्टमर ग्रोथ आती है वगैरह वगैरह, या हमारे इंटरेस्ट रेट्स बेटर होते हैं, जो भी हमने बात करी अभी तक. बट फ्रॉम अ कॉस्ट कंट्रोल स्टैंड पॉइंट, डू यू सी टेक्नोलॉजी हेल्पिंग यू, और व्हाट आर द मेजर्स दैट यू आर पुटिंग इन प्लेस, सो टू स्पीक, टू इंश्योर दैट whatever plans that we have, we stick to them?
Absolutely. So I think on the cost side, Ram, the focus has really been, and given that we are a technology company, right? The focus has been how do we really optimize our cost across the, let's say across the value chain, right? You start with origination, you get to the underwriting, and then you disburse the loan, and then you have the collection processes. I think where we have invested a lot over the last many years is to really enable these processes through technology.
Right.
And once you have that set in, I think it's then it becomes more, the whole operations become much more efficient, and it becomes a function of the scale that you can build. I think that's where we have actually invested a lot over the last many years, and that has really started to translate into much more optimized processes, right? The way we do things. I think specifically on the cost side, it's very important to be frugal about it, right? We do keep a very close tab at it. We keep on benchmarking versus our peers and everything. I think we are doing fine on that front. And on a technology company, it's not that for every incremental loan you have to have incremental cost. It's more about, how do you build that operating leverage part in your business. I think we have got to that position, and that has really resulted into the results for last financial year, and it's going to you would see that amplifying as we go along, because our costs would not grow in the same fashion or in the same proportion as
It's
the revenues would
non-linear
grow.
basically.
It's absolutely non-linear in a technology company.
Correct.
For a traditional brick and mortar company, that probably would not be the scenario. But I think in our case, that's going to play out in a much more meaningful way.
Yeah, they just have to increase more branches, more people. We don't need to do any of
Absolutely. It's all the technology that we have built. It's just leveraging that.
So incremental revenue without incremental cost.
that. Yeah,
Absolutely.
आपने शायद MBA कर रहा है.
शायद नहीं, मैं कंफर्म कर देती हूँ कि मैंने MBA किया है.
Okay, good. अच्छा, सारी हम जो बात करते हैं और एक sort of maybe not with the grain of thought right now that we have captured, but there's one thing that I've asked in the last podcast also that I did with Kumudni and Kiran was about how is it women in leadership. That's a topic, so to speak, we discussed a bit, but I also wanted to see your point of view on that, and how have you seen things change. Now you're a fairly senior person in the organization. Obviously you must have started many years ago at a much lower position, and now where you are, have you seen any difference in the way women are being treated and what kind of opportunities are coming their way?
So Ram, when somebody asked me this question, my immediate reaction is it's such a cliche question.
Yeah, I know, right?
But trust me, there is a reason why this is still being talked about. When I started my career, I used to feel that I see women everywhere around me. Be it my own organization, people in my team, my counterparts, the investors and lender community that I used to deal with, and at all levels. Entry level, mid-tier, leadership level. You used to see a lot of women, and I used to feel that what is such a saga? Why does everyone continues to discuss this? And
What's the
why?
big deal about it?
I used to feel why is this biasness even created?
Right.
But as I moved up the ladder, I realized that a lot of us start the career, but in the journey somewhere it gets phased out. And when you are in a leadership role, and that's when you see your colleagues around you, and that's when you feel that women are still a significant minority. And it's a lonely word at the top.
The pyramid's a lot narrower on the top for
Yes.
women than for men, I guess.
Yes, definitely. So yes, while our previous generations did a lot of hard work for us to make sure that we are recognized for our efforts, but at the same time, there is not enough of representation at the top level. So that is something that we have to work towards.
I think we probably need to support a lot more women founders. And that's one thing that we have observed at Lendingkart also, is that women entrepreneurs have been much better at repayment of their loans, but the NPAs
They're
are
more
much lower, I think. है ना?
And diligent.
Correct. So then last year when we also did a research on our underwriting algo, and it came out that we were unbiased.
Unbiased.
So our sincere effort has been to sort of attract more women customers. Let's see. Let's hope. I think there is always hope for things to change
We
for
have.
the better.
For us also as senior management, I see an increase in. The number of female employees are increasing, but there's a long way to go.
Yeah, and I think like I told Kumudni and Kiran also. While there are obviously great examples of public figures, etc. But you guys, Kumudni, Kiran, Kamna, you are the examples for all the girls who are joining us at the entry level positions. They look at you guys and say, you know what, I would want to be like Anisha, I want to be like Kamna, something like that, right?
Yeah, so that's a huge responsibility on our shoulders. It's not about, not about doing it for yourself. It's also about, there are young women who take inspiration and aspiration from you.
Yeah.
So you don't want to let them down.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Great. No, fantastic, Anisha. And sorry for the cliche question, but it was good to get your point of view also. And I think a lot of people would like to know what you think about this. Now, let's come to the end of the podcast, but I want to end it in a funny way, in some sense, funny, but putting you on a spot a little bit. So let's play word association. Apparently, this technique is used by psychoanalysts to figure out what goes on in your mind.
Phew.
I don't know. Anybody in the comment section wants to write something? Feel free. So whatever you say to what I ask, then that decides what sort of thought process you have. But you have to be very quick. So the idea is, I'll say something. You have to say one word or two words, whatever, back immediately. You can't stop and think.
Gift hamper मिलेगा?
Huh?
Gift hamper मिलेगा?
नहीं.
रीटेक मिलेगा?
गिफ्ट टाइम पर चाहिए तो सीएफओ साहब बाजू में बैठे बजट अप्रूव करा लो।
लेट्स टॉक अबाउट दैट लेटर.
ठीक है, वेंटेज पॉइंट वो मिल जाएंगे आपको. ठीक है, कुछ मेरे पास 701 पड़े हुए हैं, वो मैं आपको दे दूंगा. क्विज कंपटीशन
with our compliments.
HR has this concept of points they give and then you redeem it for gifts and things like that. So I'll give 701 vantage points.
To the lucky
Why do I
winner.
feel that you're making fun of these points? That is the
No, that's not true. We actually, for our team, we bought suitcases like the briefcases for 2-day travel that can through those vantage points. I mean, so all of us discussed what do we need, and people were like, let's take
my team
something that
bought,
is
headphones.
useful. So everyone was buying headphones, but the point is everyone already had headphones.
Yeah.
But then we thought like most of us are based in Bangalore and Bengaluru and Gurugram. So we had to come to Ahmedabad for 1 or 2 days. So we needed suitcases that filled for 1 or 2 days basically.
That was a good option.
So we did that. Anyway, so I'm not making fun of that. Okay, should we start?
yeah.
So same word, both of you have to answer. Okay,
Okay.
but you first, then you first. Then you basically. And I don't think you can repeat her answer.
Oh, that's I did.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
Okay.
roll with it.
All right. Should we go? Start. Regulatory compliance.
Necessity.
Must to do.
सेम ही तो हो गया. ठीक है, चलो लेट्स मूव फॉरवर्ड. बैलेंस शीट.
Report card.
Separates men from boys.
Data analytics.
Lifeline.
Intuitive response to what customer needs.
मतलब?
You predict what the customer is going to do next.
Of course. Okay, I'm just messing with you. Innovation.
Key to success.
I need to think.
That's innovation.
जी.
यार से
Lending
देखो
card.
Are you googling it?
Okay.
Innovation. What comes to mind when you think innovation?
I think we're going to continue to change the world.
You've approved budget for patent filing, by the way. You remember that now? We have started filing patent applications.
Yeah, I know.
You should have said innovation is that. Anyway, liquidity.
Responsibility.
Oh.
Cash है तो ऐश है.
I thought you say Anisha's responsibility.
PAT, profit after tax. Anisha. PAT.
120 crores.
All right.
सिर्फ यही सच है, बाकी सब मिथ्या है.
Correct. Business growth.
Lending card.
Lending card.
Hey! So you have to say
I think
instead of
we-
business loan बोले तो lending, we should say business growth बोले तो सिर्फ lending
Lending
card.
card.
And finally, and most important, सबका boss, MSME customer.
हमारा customer.
And customer तो भगवान है.
Customer भगवान. Perfect. Great. Thank you so much. I think we can end it at this note. Thank you so much, both of you, for your time. I had such a pleasure speaking with both of you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Ram.
Pleasure to be here, Ram.
Great.
All right.
Thank you for watching. Stay tuned.
Thank you for watching the Lending Card Show. All our episodes are available on our YouTube and Spotify channels. I'm Ram Deshpande, signing off. Take care. Bye-bye.